members and present the AR award, do a roll call, and then talk about some topics that are on your mind. These are agenda items that have come from the group, and then end it with a little demonstration on the fact that dropout detective and instructors decided they're not gotcha tools. So we'll talk a little bit about that. With that, Lisa. Lisa's my, let's see, she'd be, how would it be? My brother's wife, and I'm just trying to think, but.
Sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law, yeah, I couldn't get it. I was going to say, not my daughter-in-law for sure. But Lisa is my brother's wife. She's a professional teacher. She teaches at Hunter High School in Utah, and she also teaches at the Salt Lake Community College, and she teaches a really tough subject called math and algebra. So she's doing a great job, and we're happy to welcome you here. Lisa, do you want to introduce yourself to the group? And again, thank you for joining the team. You want to take a minute and tell them what you do for fun, and tell them a little bit about your background?
I just can you hear me?
Yes, it's fine.
Oh, great. I wasn't sure. So I'm Lisa, and I'm pretty busy working, and I'm pretty excited to be working for Vista.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. She makes math fun. Mm-hmm. And she really does. And she's identified a couple things that are really going to help our students in the future. So we're glad you're here.
I need to take a math class from her.
Oh, you would like it. She'd make it painless, that's for sure.
I should enroll in it just to take it for a refresher.
Well, and it's also my pleasure to introduce Dr. Kevin Smith. Kevin is just a great guy. He's a highly experienced human resource professional. He has taught at a number of institutions. I got to know Kevin while I was with Argosy, and students love him. And not to mention the fact that he has a great deal of industry experience, as well as being a good level head. Students really like his approach, and I am so glad that you joined us, Kevin. And want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do and what your hobbies are, maybe. Dr. Smith, I know you're there. Kevin, you want to turn on your mic, maybe? You got to turn your mic on. Doctor, there you go. There you go. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Larry, for the kind words. Larry mentioned HR professional, if there is such a thing. I don't know, but
there it is.
I've worked in that realm for I guess most of my career, and I've taught college courses for 20 plus years as a hobby, and I enjoy it, and look forward to working with Vista College. It's been interesting so far. I'm teaching my first class right now, or first courses right now.
And he's doing well.
He's doing well, and it's a little different teaching at a technical or vocational careers college than what you've done, but you're doing great, and I can't wait to get you in the evidence-based courses as we roll them out. So
yeah,
welcome, Lisa.
Well, thank you very much.
And again, thank you for what you're doing. Rick, do you want to do the setup on the AR award, please? Rick?
Yes. As you may or may not know, every term we pick an adjunct professor to receive an adjunct recognition award. And we go through our programs and look at those teachers who have gone above and beyond the regular duty. And I will tell you that the person that we've chosen for this term's AR award teaches in 2 different programs, not just my program, but another program. And in my program, she is at or above the minimum standards in every category of instructor insight. And I constantly am communicating with her, and she treats students with kit gloves that need it, and she treats the students with a little extra push that need it. She's good in every area, and I'm grateful to have her in my program. I know Sherry is grateful to have her in her program, and we would like to present the AR award this term to Peggy Jones.
Yay! Peggy, are you there? Peggy?
I think she said she.
You're on. I just don't know if she has sound.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Peggy? She may not have sound, huh?
I just emailed her.
All right. Well, congratulations, Peggy. We're proud of you, and it was a pretty much a unanimous recommendation. I will guarantee you that when they heard you were recommended, they just kept coming back. I'm gonna change my vote.
Hey, Larry. She says she can't get I've got her on speakerphone. She says she can't get the microphone to work on her speakerphone, but she's very grateful. Thank you.
Ah, great. Well, Peggy, as long
She's
as
on speaker, you can hear her.
as long as you can hear, that's the main thing.
Yes, she said thank you very much. She's very appreciative.
Wonderful. Well, we're proud of you, and thank you for your good work with the students. So, thank you. If you can stop sharing there we go. Thank you, Carson, for doing that. Well, Lydia, let's talk a little bit about how we handle plagiarism.
All right, awesome. I know that we have covered this 1,000 times, but I just want to go over it one more time so that we're all really clear and we're doing things the same way, because recently we've gotten a little sloppy. So when a student plagiarizes in your course, when it's an assignment that goes through the plagiarism checker, anything over 40% needs to be sent to me and your program director. We work as a team, we review that and determine whether it really is plagiarism, whether the checker is wonky, whether sometimes it's just the student's assignment that they've submitted previously. So we'll review that and we will let you know how to proceed. Don't do anything to inform the student until you hear from us, because we don't want to tell the student, hey, this is flagged with for plagiarism, and then take it back. Or we want to know where they are in the plagiarism process, if it's a first offense, a second offense, or a third offense, because all of those are handled differently and they're handled by different people. So I want to make sure that we're doing that correctly. If it's a first offense, I will let you know it's a first offense. The student gets a 0. The first offense counseling comes from you because you're the front line. I need to be copied on any counseling that's done via email so that I can document it officially in their student records. If it's a second offense, I will let you know that, and I will tell you not to do anything until I speak with the student, and I usually get Larry involved with that as well, because that means the student is failing the class. And if it's a third offense, the student will get dismissed from school. Again, that will come from Larry, that will come from me or you as an instructor. And then I will make the official documentation in Campus View so that we have records of where the student is in the process. Lately, we've had a little bit of a plagiarism problem on the discussion board. Those are a little trickier because they don't go through the plagiarism checker. So a lot of times as an instructor, you're doing the research. If you feel like something is plagiarized, send it to me, send it to your program director. We will make a determination. If there's anything wonky along the way, we will absolutely involve Larry, and Larry gets to make the final tiebreaker decision, and we will let you know how to proceed with that. Again, whether it's first, second, or third offense. Does anyone have any questions about that?
I see no questions there.
Hi. This is Kevin. I just asked a question.
Oh, yeah, I see it. There it is. Can they submit papers from previous courses? They're not supposed to.
I answered, and we let them, if they're taking a class the second time, they can absolutely submit the paper the second time. For example, if a student, and Lydia, if I'm jumping on your area, let me know, but I just happened to answer it on the board. If someone's taking English for the second time, as a general rule, they can resubmit it. We just have to check it to make sure it's really theirs.
Well, and that's one of the things that we used as a motivator for them to, even though they're going to fail the class, to keep attendance by doing the work, saying you can resubmit this in this class the next time you take it. We're not going to make you do the work twice.
Yeah, now let's make sure that the question was right. You're not talking from other different courses. You're talking about a repeat course, Kevin?
No, I was talking about, let's say somebody takes a general psychology course, and then that person takes a social psychology course, and there's a similar enough assignment that they could change the title on it and maybe put a different reference in or something and submit that.
Different paper in that case.
We have actually only run into that a few times because most of our classes are set up to where the subject matter doesn't overlap. But we have had some students, I think it's an English class, and there's another class where the students it's a similar topic, and the students have used the same paper. We have not flagged them in the past for doing that.
Yeah, I'd like them not to do that, though. That generally they should redo it. If it's a different class, it should be a different paper.
Again, I think it's only happened maybe twice in the whole time I've been at Vista.
Okay. So Dr. Smith, you get the idea right? If it's a repeat of the same course, yeah. If it's a different course, it should be a different paper.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for asking. Any other questions? Well, thank you, Lydia. I really appreciate it. Sherry, you want to talk about lay policy and extensions?
Absolutely. Mine is super easy. When it comes to extensions, I'm going to do that one first. Just make sure that if a student asks you for an extension, you send that request to Lydia and your program director. If you can get documentation, that is preferred because most of the time Lydia will need documentation, and Lydia makes those decisions on extensions. For example, if a student says, I was in the hospital, I need an extension, we usually respond with, bring us some documentation and then we'll bring it to Lydia. One of the problems we're seeing is that people aren't turning in their extension requests until 2 weeks later. That's not okay because I have no idea how to do an extension 2 weeks later. So make sure you do that as soon as possible because time is of the essence. With regards to late policy, I've seen this done incorrectly a couple times, so I want to make sure I have it clear with everyone. If an assignment is late, it's 10% off per week. That means if it's 1 day late or 6 days late, it's still 10% off. And that 10% off is factored on the grade they earn, not on the total points available. So if it were a 100-point assignment, but you would give them an 80, the 10% off is 8 points, not 10 points. Does that make sense? I'm going with yes because nobody asked.
Can you say that again?
Okay, thank you, Kevin. If an assignment is 10% late per week, they get 10% off per week. Then if you're going to assess the 10% off and it's 1 week late and you were going to give them an 80 out of 100 points. I just did 100 points because my math skills aren't good. So 80 out of 100 points. And then your late penalty would be 8 points. 10% off. Wait. Yeah, 10% off 80. Not 10 points, 10% off 100. Does that make sense? It's 10% off whatever grade you give them, whatever grade they earn, not whatever grade was possible.
So they still have 100 points from which they start, and then whatever they
grade it out of 100, just like you normally would, and then assess the late penalty. So if you're going to give them an 80% because whatever they did was worth 80%, if they had turned it in on time, then you would subtract 10% for the late penalty if it were 1 week late. One of the problems I've seen is a lot of people are adding the taking 10% off the total points instead of just what they earn.
Yeah, that's how I would naturally look at it.
And we've been doing the policy itself. We're taking 10% off what they earn.
Well, let me ask another question. So I mentioned in my introduction video that I would accept assignments up to 7 days after the due date with a 10% penalty. I didn't look at it as you just explained it, but then no accepting after a week.
We have a universal policy, which is the whole school. And everybody follows every class must follow the exact same late policy. And the late policy we follow is 10% off per week as long as the class ends. So as long as the class continues, which is 5 weeks, they can turn in week 1 and week 5. And that was a universal decision for the school as a whole. So every class has to follow the late policy.
And I apologize if I did not make that clear, Kevin.
Well, I could have forgotten it, So.
Yeah, no problem. And it's hard to remember all the things. And that's one of the reasons we've taken the time to review it here. Make sense on the policy then? Any questions?
Larry, get one question. So hurricane impacted folks and extensions. I've identified those folks. If I need to do anything further for their extension and grant them extensions, those that were impacted both in Florida and in Texas.
Work with Lydia on that, and I will tell you that I absolutely want to work with them. I don't want to penalize them if they're involved with the hurricane, but make sure that Lydia is working close with you on that, so that we can verify the action plan. There's a special process that we have to go through in helping these students.
Also, I just want to say, because I forgot, there are no extensions past the end of term unless there is, Lydia has been notified early and she has specifically said it. Do not give a student an extension past the term end. That causes all kinds of issues for almost everybody because we have to do SAP and whatnot. So if you have any questions with that, again, Lydia or myself, we're happy to answer it. But don't give anything past that. Thank you.
Well, I want you to, if you're trying to do that, it's not just you, Sherry. I want you to work with the program director if you're. Sorry,
I should have said Lydia or your program, Lydia and your program director. I'm sorry. I forget I'm not in charge of everyone.
All right. So, Keith, did I answer your question? I know Sherry jumped in. I just want to make sure that you got the question answered. Keith?
Yeah, I have two students, one in Florida, one in Texas, both impacted. So they're both, I'll work with Lydia and Rich to kind of just identify them and make sure that we handle it appropriately.
Okay, good deal. And if you work with Lydia, and your program director on an extension, the only extension we have is they get the grade they earn in maximum 7 days. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go through this. Any other questions? Somebody keeps pinging on the chat. Let me see. Okay, there we go. All right.
I'm sorry, you guys. This is Tracy Eaton, and I joined a little late, so I wasn't sure if you guys were going to call roll again or not.
We are. We haven't called roll yet. We know there's always somebody that comes in a little bit late, so that's no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking. No problem at all. Tracy, you want to talk about entering zeros in the grade book, please?
Yes, hi everybody. This is just a friendly reminder that I know in Canvas when a student does not submit an assignment, there's like a little dash that will pop up in the box, but that dash is not a grade. You still have to put a 0 in your grade book for a complete grade book. So don't forget to put the 0 in the grade book for discussion, assignments, and quizzes so that we can get a full snapshot of the student's grade.
Just to clarify, even if they have, we just talked about the late policy. We put a 0 there and then they do the work eventually, then we change the grade again?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So
the grade is not on, well, Oh, go ahead.
You want a 0 on Monday for anything that's late.
Correct. When you're doing your grade that they have not submitted, when you are grading, you put the 0 in there, right? And so when they submit, the box will change color, and then you go ahead and change the grade. And then for the quiz, it won't automatically take off the late points. So like Jerry said, you have to, calculate, the late points.
Yeah.
And that does two things for us. One, it sends the student an email telling them that they've received a 0. And the second thing is we program directors go in on Monday and Tuesday to see where everybody is at, to see who we need to contact. Putting that 0 in there helps us.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, then. Any other questions on that?
Larry, I do have a question. This is Dave DeFabio.
Hi, David.
Hey, Larry. There is a setting in Canvas that allows ungraded assignments to be marked as a 0. Has anybody used that and experienced that yet?
Carson, do you know of anybody using that?
I found it on the individual view. So if you're in a grade book and you click on a tab above, it says individual view. There's a way that you can click a box that says grade ungraded assignments with a 0. And I didn't want to try it halfway through the term.
Yeah, the only issue with that is if there are outstanding assignments in weeks in the future, it's going to grade everything as a 0. And all of a sudden the student's going to see they have a 1% and the course improved out. So it actually will give a 0 to everything in the grade book that hasn't been completed yet. So I guess it's more of a discussion on, well, do we start at 100% and work down, or start at 0 and work up? And I know we've had this discussion a long time ago, but that's the result of using that tool.
So no one's using it. Is that what you're saying, Carson?
Not to my knowledge.
And so we ought to explore that and see if, I don't know that I'm not sure it would be any easier that way or the way we currently do it. Any thoughts about that, Carson?
Well, like I said, this conversation has taken place, but it's been some time ago.
Okay.
And, the decision was made to add these 0s as the incomplete work takes place, rather than start them at a 0 and have more up from the 0.
Okay. All right. David, does that answer your question?
It does. It does. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you so much. Kimberly, do you want to talk about the checklist and quality checking, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Just a quick reminder that I did send out the course preview checklist along with a few notes and a video on how to set dates in your course. It's important that you go through that checklist and you check everything, especially your dates. And here recently, we've gotten a lot of broken link complaints. It's important that if you have a link or video that is running in your course, that you click on it and actually read through and make sure that the entire link is there and that the video is operating. I know sometimes they might break during the term, but just make sure that the entire information is working in the course. And that's pretty much it. How is everyone feeling about setting the dates now?
Kimberly, this is Kevin. I set the dates for the assignments to be available on the day of the start for the module. And then I gave them 1 week to finish them. And so it looks like I'm going to have to go back and change the dates to make them available to the students for the entire course. So,
well, if you look at the notes on there, you want to set the date, the available date for the Monday that the week each week starts. The due date is the Sunday that the week ends, and then the until date is the end of the term date.
Okay.
So that leaves it open until the end of the term.
Yeah, I need to make that adjustment.
Okay.
That's why we do it. Well, remember this is what I think the third term of using Canvas, and all in all, it's going pretty darn well in terms of the migration. So, the things that we're learning is it's really important that as you launch the course that you check all the links. That's very important. So, what else, Kimberly?
That's all I have. Anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Kimberly? Again, Kimberly and Carson are your resources. They're there, and they'll help you with virtually any problem you're having with the LMS or your course. So don't hesitate to reach out. They're there to support you, and they do a great job of doing that. Tanya, do you want to take roll, please?
Sure. Charlotte Scott, are you here today? Don Pearson?
Don's here.
Thanks, Don. What about Jerry Gordon? James Fountain, are you here? Jill Hurley? Sabrina?
Jill Hurley is excused. She's coaching soccer.
Okay.
Her daughter.
Sabrina's here. Sandy McDonald? Here. And Victoria Loudon, are you here today? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. Really appreciate it. So, some of you, well, there's been some folks that think the Dropout Detective and Instructor Insight is maybe a gotcha tool. It's not, absolutely not a gotcha tool. I'll show you. We want to talk to you why we've implemented the Dropout Detective as well as Instructor Insight. In an online school, it's critical that we have faculty engagement with students. And in fact, if there is limited or low engagement, we run the risk of being classified as a correspondence school, not an online school. The regulation is really clear that you have to have faculty to student and student to student engagement on a regular basis, which means pretty much every week. And we have to demonstrate that to the accreditors. And if we were audited by the Department of Education, our Instructor Insight is a tool that provides the data to show that we have faculty engaged with students. Therefore, we qualify as an online institution. Some of you may already know that WGU, Western Governors, is already going through, they've been ordered to return $731 million back to the Department of Education because they are not proving that they have faculty engagement. So it's a big deal. And when you're an online school, you absolutely have to have faculty engagement and demonstrate it and show it along the way. So Instructor Insight is the tool that does that for us. That's one of the benefits of it. The other thing other reason we have it is it's really clear that if a student is engaged and if a faculty is engaged, students are more successful. We must improve our graduation rates in a couple of programs, and some of you have been involved with us in doing a root cause analysis, but we're focused on student success, which is retention, graduation, and placement. There are factors that matter in an online school, but forget an online school or a ground school just as much, and they're called non-cognitive factors. Whenever we take a student, one of the things that they do is they will go ahead and take an assessment, a Wonderlic assessment, that they get a score, a cognitive score, and that's an indicator of that the student may be successful in a program. It's not always a perfect indicator, but it is one of the indicators. But there are other factors that really matter, and they're non-cognitive factors, and we can talk a little bit more about what they are. But these non-cognitive factors are really malleable. You can mold and shape and help a student to be successful. We have really good evidence that if a program director is involved with the student, if a faculty member connects with the student, if our student services person calls a student and connects with the student, it's amazing what's happened. In fact, within Vista College Online, we have improved retention exponentially in the last 11 months. We have 11 months of beating the corporate drop budget, 11 solid months of beating it, and the retention's improving exponentially. And it's mostly because Lydia and Deidre and the program directors have been really engaged at shaping and working with things like confidence, things like value of the education, things like, I can do it, the mindset, if you will, of our student. And they're malleable. And so we need to pay attention to first-generation students. Throughout the nation, there's lots of what they call first-year programs to help students to be successful. And let's talk to you about why. So out of 10 students, this is what's going on. 3 of them fail to complete high school, and then a couple more fail to attend college, and then some more fail to complete college. Only 3 out of 10 people who enter college actually graduate. That's not student success. And then when you look at it and you break it down even further, multi-generational students, meaning people or students who have family or parents that have graduated from college, 2 out of 3 will graduate from college if you're a multi-generation student. On the other hand, if you're first-generation student, meaning the first one in your family to go to school, only 1 out of 3 will actually graduate. Now at Vista College, the question is, how many of our students are first-generation students? And by state, national statistics here, where the first-generation students are. You notice that Texas hasn't shown up yet. We have a lot of students in Florida and Texas, New Mexico. Utah popped up. We have a few students in Utah. But in the majority of the states, 40 to 50% of all college students are first-generation students. What that means is out of 100, if you have 100 new enrollments, 2/3, 66 of them are going to drop just because they're a first-generation student. That's a really staggering statistic, but it's true. The probability of someone dropping, if you're a first generation, is awfully high. Well, if you work with them, you can't. And they need confidence, and they need care. They need infant care, I call it, but they need confidence building from you, the faculty member. And that's why we talked a little bit about that last meeting. But this, if you're engaged, if they see you, if you connect with them, if you provide prompt quality feedback, and feedback that says, hey, I'm giving you feedback because I believe in you, that confidence building statement, we will significantly improve retention. Well, and that's been happening with Vista College. Again, it's pretty impressive. We're actually leading Vista College in retention at this moment. We've just done it. We've blown them away. And that's come because we've been shaping and working these non-cognitive factors with our first generation students. It turns out we're gonna do a little survey to find out, but we believe that our first generation students with the online Vista College Online is probably somewhere around 80%, which means, you know, high propensity to drop if we don't connect, engage, and provide confidence building initiatives. So they are malleable, and, you know, they will, you know, by using them, we can actually do a better job of improving retention and graduation rates. Yes, retention is an economic factor, but frankly, folks, we have to retain our students and graduate them to remain accredited. If we don't graduate our students at a select rate, it depends on what the program is, then the accreditor is liable to come and say you can't do the program anymore. So, you know, we're heavily engaged in making sure we meet those thresholds that matter. And to predict our graduation rates, GPA and attendance is a driver. There's no question. If they're not attending, engaged in your class, if you're not engaged in your class, if they're not getting decent grades, that's an indicator that we have a looming drop, especially with a first generation student. The entrance assessments, Wonderlic, you know, we use that's an indicator. We can get improvement in graduation rates, completion rates by monitoring and using this entrance assessment. But notice how much we can get if we pay attention to non-cognitive factors, that confidence building, those theories. It's huge, you know, and we are doing it. That's the good news. We're doing it. But we need to have tools in place in our student success model, which is that of we need to assess. We need to know where we're engaged, which is what Dropout Detective and Instructor Insight's all about, and have early outreach to our at-risk students. We need to select our faculty. Our faculty need to be passionate subject matter experts. We can't just put somebody in there because they have a business degree like me, thinking I can do a good job in HR courses, because I can't. I'm not an HR professional like Kevin Smith is, or, you know, so it's critical that we put passionate subject matters into those courses, as well as set up an early warning system to know what's going on with our systems. And that's what we have with Instructor Insight and Dropout Detective. So don't think it's a gotcha tool. It's absolutely not. It is a device that's helping us to improve our completion rates, which is a national imperative, first of all, for higher education, but secondly, for online, for Vista College. It's critical so that we can remain accredited, but more importantly, so that we can accomplish our mission. We'll use the data to inform our advising, create workshops, employ other services. So what we're doing is we're using the data from Instructor Insight and Dropout Detective and other sources to design a student success model and employ strategies. We're using it to help us to know what non-cognitive factors we need to go after to help those first generation students. And we're deliberate. We're implementing deliberate, informed academic advising. That's what evidence-based learning is all about. Dr. Waller's had a chance to use some of the advising. Keith we didn't have enough students, but he's already used the evidence-based, the assessment, to help to build the confidence of our students, and it really is beginning to work. We're doing something with our data. So in short, you know, remember, we're not trying to penalize anybody. We're just trying to create an excellent online school that meets the accreditation criteria and all of that stuff. But more importantly, we're here to help our students to be successful, and so that's what we're doing. I think I've had a few little chat things come off. No, I haven't had anything. Okay. So any questions on what we're doing with Dropout Detective and Instructor Insight? Any particular questions that you might have?
Yeah, Larry, this is Dan Worsler, and I have a question on Instructor Insight. I just want to kind of add my comment to it. One of the biggest things, I don't see it as a got you at all, so I'm not one of those. I see it as I want to know what my fellow instructors' standards are, and I actually want to beat it.
Yeah.
I want to go beyond that, and not in a competitive manner, but I really like Instructor Insight, that it tells me what our instructors are doing as a whole, and it kind of helps me raise my bar in my game, whether it be putting out more discussion posts, a better quality discussion posts. It's just led me, I noticed by checking it, to a higher standard for myself. So I'm really enjoying the fact that you're putting out the kind of the analytics there on Instructor Insight. It's very helpful for me.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's great, Dan. And I think you're teaching oral communications next, right?
I teach, yes, I will be.
Well, it's going to be an evidence-based course, so I've got to do some training. You got even another tool to help you to do a better job. You're going to love it.
Well, I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Larry, I had just kind of a question and a comment. Is Dropout Detective, especially for our new instructors, is not always overly relevant in the first week, because the smallest little down nod will suddenly make it into 100 and they're bright red. And it really has nothing to do with what the student's doing. It's just that you're grading ahead of the completion. And you know, don't panic in the first week. But it does get more consistently appropriate as the weeks go on. Number two, I was just talking to Carson, is can we as instructors, and I know this is hard, find out who the first generation students are? Because honestly, in medical terminology, I'm lucky these kids get on to learn that. Trying to figure out who, you know, their life history and everything on the discussion board just doesn't happen. So I have no idea who the first generations are and how to get to them.
Well, so and that's something I've been wrestling with for. Well, we had a program committee meeting that pricked my mind, and I went, "Oh yeah, geez, I know that about first generation." So I dug up my presentations that I've done in the past, because I've done a lot of research in this area. But I would tell you that the decision is made to treat everybody as if they're first generation at Vista College Online, and the reason is we're going to find out. In fact, Lydia's going to do a little survey with our active students, and we're going to try to find out what percentage it is. Both Lydia and I believe we're at probably better than 80% first generation for all students. So you might just want to treat them as all being that way at this point. And I'll as time goes on, I'll share more what non-cognitive factors are and what kinds of interventions you can use. I will tell you that the biggest thing we can do is positive, confidence-building statements for first generation. Why? Because, you know, the parents are probably saying, well, why are you doing that? I mean, I'm reminded of my dad. When he was a blue-collar mechanic, never graduated from high school. And when I told him I wanted to go to college at the University of Utah, you know what he said to me? He said, why are you doing that, son? You need to work. That's what he said. That's the kind of message that's going to lots of first generations. You know, why are you doing that? And so they need confidence, and they need connection with experts like you, passionate subject matter, so they can be excited about the future. So anyway, Ann, I don't know that I've answered your question. There really isn't a way other than I'd almost bet you a Diet Coke that the majority of our students, really high 80%, are first gen. So that's a big deal. It's a big deal. Any other questions? Well, Dr. Waller, do you want to conclude the meeting?
For Dr. Banks. Thank you for this meeting. It's been some great dialogue. I'd like to again welcome the new faculty members on board. Peggy Jones, again, congratulations on your award. Please do pay attention to the plagiarism. Make sure it doesn't go over 40%. That is highly critical. Get your course checklist to Kimberly. Larry would bet you a Diet Coke. I would probably bet you a Scotch, but that probably isn't appropriate for this group. But that there's not a person or a student that shouldn't be encouraged. I think we all need that confidence building when it gets right down to it. So keep that in mind. Also, again, congratulations to not only student services, but to our faculty as a whole for our budget, our drop budget being 35% below budget for this month. And again, like Larry said, to the 11 months that we have run that. And we need to continue that trend. But I'm greatly appreciative of all your efforts to keep that number very, very, very low. Because what it means is we've got students that are continuing to be engaged with us, and they have a higher probability of getting to graduation. So thank you for all your efforts, and thank you for this meeting. Dr. Banks?
All right, thank you. We'll see you all later. Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye,
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.